Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're covering something that I think I covered initially on the channel when I very first started, which is Melee Mancer. This is a Grim Scythe push build for Season 21 and the PTR. Now this build has always been really powerful. It's had a bit of a buff via one of the items, kind of a little bit by the back door, but it hits really hard. It's going to be quite the toss-up, I think, between this and Corpse Explosion as to which is going to go further. On the PTR leaderboards at the moment, I think the top two, as I record this, are Corpse Explosion, followed in third by this kind of build. Now there's lots of different options. We're going to go through them all, talk about the different gear pieces, how you may or may not want to select your skills, how you may or may not want to do your gear pieces. Always, it's a little bit of personal preference. Not necessarily sure what is going to be the absolute top, optimal or best build, but you can kind of get a flavour for this and work in the pieces that maybe suit you a little better. But before we jump into it, I just want to welcome anyone who's new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I promise I will move off Necromancer very soon and start Demon Hunter videos, because obviously there's some changes there. But other than that, guys, thumbs up brightens my day, and let's jump into it. Now the footage in the background is 105. I've just cleared that with absolutely stacks of time to spare. Used all my Paragon, but there's not many augments on the gear and it's certainly not optimised. You really want to be stacking area damage and attack speed, I'd say, for this kind of build, and I don't really have most of those rolls there. Really tanky, as you can see. We don't come into too much trouble and it's first go. I've got tongue lashes on the first floor and everything, so kind of nice. I also deliberately don't take a shield pile on towards the end of the rift, just so that you can see how the Rift Guardian fight goes. So starting at the beginning, Legacy of Dreams build, we need the gem at rank 99. This gives us just under 10k damage mod and 52% damage reduction. Now I'm actually missing one ancient. I just haven't bothered to re-roll this because it's got the 15% Grim Scythe damage and the 50% damage reduction on it. Obviously if I did have one more ancient, then it would be a little bit of extra damage and a little bit of extra DR, so just bear that in mind when we're looking at it. Now the build all revolves around Grim Scythe. This is the melee bit, so we swipe around and it's pretty nice. Now one of the changes that we've had to this particular patch has been Haunted Visions. So Simulacrum now drains 1% of our life per second, which, trust me, is absolutely nothing. You don't need to worry about that negative effect at all. But they now duplicate Grim Scythe instead of Skeletal Mage. So if you pop Simulacrum, the rune we've got is Blood and Bones. We've got two of them, and they'll also swipe. So all this area of effect is getting hit with the Grim Scythe. Now the reason that's amazing is because they actually proc area damage. They're not classed as pets, so we can't take pet items to buff them up, but they do actually benefit from area damage on our character. So if we can stack that really high, then we've got this really big arc that we just showed with tons of area damage on. Now Grim Scythe revolves around Trag'oul's Corroded Fang. This will basically give us a 100% chance to curse when we hit. So whenever we hit with the Grim Scythe, we get a curse on the enemy, which is great because they then take up to 200% extra damage. And just a quick insert here, guys, I forgot to explain in the video that the way that the Grim Scythe applies a curse is it just picks one of these three at random. The more times you whack away with it though, obviously the more chance you'll get all three curses on. So the base Decrepify reduces move speed of the enemy, but also reduces their damage by 30%, so they will hit you not quite as hard, so that's obviously excellent. Leech will just basically give you a little bit of sustain, and then Frailty will kill the enemy at 15% health, obviously phenomenal for Rift Guardian, great for Juggernaut and anything that is a pain in the butt, because at 15% health it will disappear. Back to the video. The curse also activates the Dainty's Binding for the 50% damage reduction. Now the main multiplier we've got is Nayrs Black Death. So we get a stack of this for every poison skill we use. So that's the Nayrs stack. If we pop a different poison ability, it goes up to 2. We've got 5 on the bar, so we can get up to 500%. Now I don't keep that up all of the time. It will drop off a little bit, sometimes to 4, sometimes to 3. But you just need to keep on top of your poison stacks and keep refreshing them. We're going to have a couple of the skills on Numlock, so it's a lot easier than making it sound. Now also pairing really well for Grim Scythe is the Ledger's Disdain, so you definitely need this offhand. It deals an extra 73% for me, up to a max of 80% damage for every point of essence it restores. So this restores 12 per enemy hit, so the more enemies you hit, the bigger this multiplier goes. So obviously trash, big mobs really do give you a very hard hitting multiplier. And if you think about it, if you then factor in area damage, that means you're absolutely blasting with this kind of huge Grim Scythe effect, which is really good. Now we've also got depth diggers. They will basically double our damage. Again, mine are crappy, 80% roll. I reforged about 50 pairs of these buggers because again I wanted Grim Scythe damage on them, and this is literally the best I found. So I could be getting a little bit more out of these. Another 20% on there would obviously be very nice, but that is up to a double damage mod. We also take the Simplicity Strength Legendary Gem. So again, mine is rank 98, so fairly low. You can get up to like about, I can't remember what it maxes out at, but certainly over 80, maybe 90%. It's another really big damage mod. It also heals us for 4% of our maximum life with each hit. So the faster your attack speed, the more you're sustaining yourself, because you're getting 4% life for every swipe. That's obviously quite a lot. It adds up pretty, it's pretty big basically. Really good source of sustain. Now also reworked is the Resist Volition Shoulders. This is great because Skeletal Mage gives the Gift of Death rune and Singularity runes. We also get up to 50% damage reduction when Essence isn't full. So Singularity Mage, we're going to pick the Poison rune on here because obviously we want to stack Poison for Nayrs. Gift of Death means they leave a corpse, which is very good for one of our other skills. And Singularity is brilliant because it empties the Essence. Because if we go back to the Ledger's Disdain, this modifier only activates if we restore Essence. So if we start hitting stuff now with full Essence, we don't get any, it's restoring 0, so it's 0 times that 73%. So if you pop your mages, you can then fill up your orb with swipes. Now it does fill up very quickly, and you just need to keep an eye on this. If it looks like stuff isn't melting, you probably have full Essence and you need to empty it. So obviously getting the Gift of Death rune on here is absolutely perfect, synergizes really well with the build. Now in terms of damage, Crispin Sentence, we get double damage against slowed enemies, so the Bane of the Trapped is going to do the lifting on that part for us, and we also get treble this effect against anything that is stunned, frozen, blinded, charmed, feared, any other CC basically. Now personally, I have always played Grim Scythe with the Blind Faith Helm. You get up to a 40% chance on hit to blind, so when you whack away with your Scythe, enemies get blinded, and that means you've got really good uptime on your Crispin Sentence. Now you don't have to take this, you can simply rely on Bone Armor Dislocation. That's your poison, that's a stun. It only lasts 2 seconds, it's on a 10-second cooldown, and I will have a little chat about cooldown because there is a breakpoint for the way I've got it set up, but you don't want to be stacking cooldown in this build, so I personally prefer this. But one argument is that with Bone Armor you get much more control over when you do actually stun, so you can stun right at the start of poison and then DPS through that. So again, that's maybe if you want to play it in a little bit more advanced mechanics. That brings us nicely to the Convention of Elements. So this is 200% damage on poison, so obviously loads of poison skills with Nayrs, and then again poison window we do a lot more damage, so we need to make sure that we are attacking as much as we can during poison cycle. Now weird item here, Talrash's Relentless Pursuit. Obviously you need a wizard, you need to roll a wizard to get this. The reason this is here is because it is it can roll attack speed on it basically, so you can get your 3 main stats, you can get your sockets, and you can also pick up to 7% attack speed. Attack speed's really good, more hits, more damage, and also more heals, as we say with the Simplicity Strength. Other than that, for toughness we're going with a Stone Gauntlets. These will give us an absolutely huge amount of armor, up to 250% when we get hit. It does carry a negative which slows the movement speed and attack speed, but weirdly enough that negative is completely removed if you put Ice Climbers on the character. So with these boots, Stone Gauntlets basically just give us an absolute boatload of armor. That's why I've got red gems in my chest and also in my trousers. Green ones are fine as well, red or green, both of them give armor, and that means that you can stand there and take an awful lot of punishment because armor is just so incredibly high. Let's see what else. Now Nems, I personally again play this build with Nems. I'm not majorly into fishing. Even when I do push, I just kind of like going as high as I can, as often as I can. What I find is that Nems will take a good couple of minutes off a high end rift. You can maybe swap these out. and I would probably personally, if it was me, would go for Krelms, because these will make you immune to immune to knockback and stun effects. Obviously, if you're close range wanting to Grim Scythe, if something knocks you across the screen, you're not doing any damage, and obviously it's annoying, and you know, being immune to stun as well is obviously pretty nice. Now, people on the boards are using Ancient Pathland Defenders. That is because you can stun with Bone Armor. Again, you're not really gearing for cooldown, so I just don't really see that you're getting enough uptime. I, as I say, personally much prefer the Blind Faith to proc the Crispins, and that leaves me free to pick the Nems, which can mean that I can be a little bit more selective with what map I'm going for, as I'm trying to go as high as possible. Rounding us out on toughness, we've got a Unity, so obviously not applicable for groups, but provided your follower has also got a Unity, and the Templar relic or whatever relic that will make you invulnerable, damage is split between you, so doubles your toughness. Now, Golem Skin Breaches give us another 30% damage reduction, and we take this because it is another poison skill. Now, this cooldown for Golem is 45 seconds. You get 25 off with these pants, so that takes it to 20 seconds. Then you've got basically your cooldown reduction to apply. Now, you need a stack of poison. It lasts 15 seconds, so you need to have the Golem back every 15 seconds. So that's where the cooldown breakpoint comes in, which is 25%. Because if you take your 20 seconds, knock 25% off it, you get to 15. So just a little bit over 25, and the Golem will always be there. It will always go off. Now, what I do is I numlock Command Skeleton's kill command. They basically need a target to attack, but they'll just blow themselves up, respawn, and they'll do it again, which is fine. Activate every 15 seconds. The Decay Golem needs a corpse. It can't do its skill, so if I press it now, nothing happens. It says requires a corpse. That's where the Gift of Death comes in really important on the Recess Volition, because in a battle, the archers will leave a corpse. You can then cast your golem at it. So I do numlock it, because again, I don't want to be having to press buttons. I don't want to have to remember to do this, and it should be there. Now, the only one I'd say that I sometimes forget is Bone Armor Dislocation, because it's on such a huge cooldown, 60 seconds. It's nice because it gives us 30% damage reduction and the stun as well, but it's the one that I probably forget the most. And other than that, sometimes you can find one of these two will drop off just situationally, but they're very easy to get back, so you should be pumping out your 5 Nayrs stacks pretty often. And I think that probably covers the gear. Now, in terms of stat rolls, you want area damage everywhere, so ideal weapon would probably be damage percent, attack speed, area damage, obviously up to 200% on the secondary. You want area damage on your offhand, crit hit chance. If you can get Grim Scythe damage, then probably that would be the ultimate roll in damage with the rest of those stats. The convention, unless you're trying to get to your 25% cooldown, you don't want cooldown, you want double crit, socket, and I'd say area damage. Crispins defaults with attack speeds, that's fine, we can take it. So attack speed, socket, again double crit maybe, something like that. Stone Gauntlets, you can't get these. This is another item you can't get in the Necro loot pool. You have to have a strength character. You can keep the strength because obviously it is armor. So again, area damage, attack speed. You can tell I'm tired. Attack speed, double crit would be nice. Recess Volition, these default roll with resource cost reduction, so they are actually really hard to get to roll well. You would ideally like Intvit, area damage, and then maybe life percent, and maybe this is somewhere you could take a cooldown roll. For your Blind Faith Helm, this rolls on a massive range, I'm afraid, for the secondary, and you can't cube it either. It's got to stay on the character as near to 40% as possible, and then Intvit crit chance. For Amulet, poison obviously, and then socket double crit would be ideal. Poison, Intvit, crit on your braces also would be pretty good, and then on your belt, Grim Scythe damage, Intvit life percent. So Grim Scythe damage, as we say, also on the trousers, Intvit, Grim Scythe. For the boots, armor, all res, vitality, in just defensive stats basically. I think that probably covers it. So let's just have a quick go through the skills in detail, then we'll talk about some swaps for skills, swaps for gear, that kind of thing. Skeletal Mage, Contamination, it's poison, it's the only poison rune on here, empties the essence, which is perfect. Grim Scythe normally has the 15% chance to inflict the curse. It's 100% because of the Trag'oul's Corroded Fang. Again, another stack of poison. Command Golem, Decay Golem only works when you have a corpse, but we get those from the skeletal mages. Again, another stack of poison gives us the 30% damage reduction. Command Skeleton's Kill Command, simply just a poison skill. You could swap this out for another poison ability, but you can numlock this, so it means it's one less button to press, is the attitude I have. Simulacrum, Blood and Bone, this gives us the 2 Simulacrum, so even more hits with Grim Scythe, even more area damage procs, so very nice. Bone Armor Dislocation, final stack of poison, Stun for Crispins, 30% damage reduction. Now in terms of passives, Spreading Malediction will eke out a bit more damage because as you whack away on trash with your scythe, you're cursing lots of enemies, so it does eke up. Probably one of the least important passives. I've got Overwhelming Essence just to make it so I'm not having to cast the mages quite so often. Again, pretty debatable that one. Swift Harvest, 15% extra attack speed on Grim Scythe seems to make sense. And then standalone, extra 100% armor. Take 10% off for the golem, so that's 90, and then take 10% for each mage. Now, really, you will rarely have more than max 3 mages out, I'd say, so you're still getting 60% armor, so I'd say still worth taking. Other passives, that you definitely don't want to extend your mages if you're taking standalone, so that's no good. Rigor Mortis is nice. This will drop attack speed of enemies, so quite a good defensive one there. Eternal Torment, Curses Lasting Forever, can be quite nice. And then I'd say probably that's about it. We're not looking for any cooldown. Cheat Death, if you want to push, could be something to take over Overwhelming Essence. But yeah, that's how it was in the clear, so that's how I've left it. I don't put any points in Paragon. In essence, again, that's an argument you could take just to make this orb bigger, so that means that you're having to stop less to cast Skeletal Mage, but that's pretty much the skills now. What I have seen on the boards is other poison skills, so Bone Spear with Blighted Marrow, you can take that, but it does literally nothing, it's just a poison skill and you have to activate it, carries no benefit. Death Nova, Unstable Compound would be a similar argument, it would just be a poison skill, wouldn't help you, but Blight in theory does. It gives a 60% slow and 15% less damage. It only activates for 1 second though, so it's quite inconsistent, so I probably would just about go with the Command Skeletons. And also it costs essence, so you've got to like manage, you can't cast it if you've got no essence, for instance. So I just think it's slightly easier. Other gear pieces to consider, with crowns we've covered. A Leoric's crown would give you double the gem in the helm, so if you're looking to get cooldown nowhere else, then it could go in your helm and your Paragon and you'd be covered. You could go for a life gem and buff up your life pool even more, if you provided you do have your 25% CDR figure. I mean, you could just forget the CDR and you just have a little bit of period of time where you don't have your 5 Nayrs stacks. Andariel's Visage will give you some poison damage, so again this can roll elemental. It also rolls attack speed, which is nice, so again that's something to consider. Illusory boots seem very popular on the boards as well, so not taking the golem and putting the boots on, that will allow you to reposition quite easily, go through stuff, stand in your ocular circles. I do like the 30% damage reduction on these though, so that's why I've been playing with them. And then Path and Defenders we've pretty much covered. I suppose in theory, Swampland Waders, you could put the Depth Diggers in here and wear Swamplands and get another 20% elemental. Again, that would be 4 classes worth to get the items. Towels from the Wiz, Stone Gauntlets from the Barb, and then Witch Doctor Pants. So that feels a bit like Frankenstein's monster. So yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. Final legendary gem in the footage, I was using Bane of the Trapped, but obviously at some point Bane of the Stricken is going to make sense. Again, the faster your attack speed, the quicker these stacks build, and 25% damage against the Rift boss. But as you see, I do the boss fairly easily, so I'm probably not quite at the level of swapping over yet. Got a few more GRs to push, but I still want to test Corpse Explosion, push, and as I say, I want to do some Demon Hunter stuff as well. So that is pretty much the guide, guys. As I say, there's quite a few options as to how you want to set this up and how you want to do it. If anything changes between now and season launch, I will update a D3 planner link. I can't do it at the moment because the new items haven't been added, and I'm a little curious as to whether anything gets changed as well. So that's Mancer. Tough, right in the thick of things, kills everything. One of my favourite Necro push builds. Not squishy and not at range. So there we go. Right, that's it guys, that's the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back with some more Season 21 PTR stuff just as soon as I can. Take it easy. Peace.